I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing that name.
Sing that song.
Joseph, sing.
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights.
The internet belongs to you.
See, no one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm famous. Joseph Jaffe is a delusional human being who thinks he's famous. He's not famous. He's not famous. I'm famous.
Woody-hoo! Woody-hoo! Out here in the stream, as in the streaming era, I fight for my dreams. I get my heart into my living.
You encourage drinking or marijuana use on the show?
I don't need a fight, cause Evelyn's right. Or you could sponsor an emu. I'm Batman.
That's your tweetable moment, folks. That's your tweetable moment. If Mark Zuckerberg makes a metaverse, is that Web3? No, it's Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse.
He's like us. He's flawed.
Just a little segue.
That's some dope shit, dude. That's really, really nice.
Woody-hoo! Woody-hoo! Well, hello, everybody. It is March 15th. As I noted this morning, it is the middle of the week. It is hump day, but it is also the middle of the month. It's not the middle of the year, but hopefully your year is off to a good start. I just got back from Austin, Texas, from South by Southwest, and just found out that my guest today, Eli Facenda, is actually an Austinite. He lives in Austin. Had I known, I would have been out on the town with him, using my credit card for priceless experiences. I think I must be the perfect host because I am his customer. I am someone who flies a lot, who has a credit card, who spends money on the credit card, and has not figured out how to use that credit card. So I'm going to pour into him and find out all the things that I've been doing wrong. No doubt, I'm sure I've been doing a lot of things wrong. Well, it is good. I'm doing a live show. Why not? I realize that my little lava lamp over there is not on. Maybe I'll figure out a smart way to auto-magically make sure that the light comes on. How do I do it? With this incredible production team of 700,000 people, including pets.com sitting on my shoulder. All shall be revealed. Well, for those of you that have been following my adventures, every single morning in the Discord server, in our Discord server, we run the Collective Cafe. It is virtual coffee. It is audio first, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we talk about a lot of things. We manifest, we do live book reads. We have Wellness Wednesday. We had a great session today on Wellness Wednesday. On Friday, we do something called No Agenda Friday. And as you can guess, there's no agenda. Everyone comes onto stage. If you want to join us, just go to discord.gg/alpha collective. Actually, one of the things I'm going to be starting today, or maybe not today, but I'm going to be inviting my guests on every Thursday to do almost an after show in Discord, should they wish to get up early in the morning, where we'll go through the show notes and we'll discuss the actual show and have other people watch the show in advance and then come and ask questions for both myself and my guests. So something to look forward to. We also have a podcast version of our virtual coffee. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is go to bit.ly/collective cafe to go. If you want to actually take these conversations on the road with you, maybe you're flying, maybe you're stuck on the tarmac, hopefully not. Maybe you are commuting, walking the dog, getting the kids ready for school, or whatever tickles your fancy. And that is the Collective Cafe. What else can I tell you? I just put out a LinkedIn newsletter today, really just talking about the tokenization of brands, the tokenization of everything, the whole allegations in a way that we are operating at the moment in the Wild West. And I'm not sure that I like the analogy of thinking about Web3 and the whole crypto and blockchain and NFT world, community building in this shared economy as this idea of the Wild West. I think it's more like the gold rush. But I wrote a very frank account of the last 2 years with my own Jaffe coin, what I've learned, what I haven't learned along the way. And as I said, look, back in the Wild West, you had snake oil salesmen, you had bandits, you had scammers, and guess what? You still have them today as well. Sometimes we give innovation and we give technology and we give something that's new, that's emerging. We give it an unfair rap by holding it to an unfair standard when there are a lot of growing pains along the way, especially in that hockey stick growth curve. And you can access my newsletter through my LinkedIn profile. Well, as I said, I just got back from South by Southwest, and boy, are my arms tired. I was actually pretty relieved because there was a bit of a nor'easter coming into the whole Northeast, and I was able to take off on time and land on time, which probably is more the exception these days than the norm. But I thought I would just share a couple of images of my weird South by Southwest experience from hanging out with nuns promoting a new series on Peacock to hanging out with rabbis in Austin. I also met two brothers that have started this incredible new product. I'm going to have them on the show. The product is called Halo, and what it actually is it's a dog collar. It's essentially an invisible fence, but without the invisible fence, would you believe? So the collar itself acts as the invisible fence, and you create the perimeter of the invisible fence using your mobile phone by tracing your finger around a map. And that actually creates this dynamic invisible fence. It's, I don't know, about a third the price of normally digging up your ground and actually putting in this invisible fence. And it's mobile, meaning you take your dog with you on vacation and you can just create this temporary invisible fence. So I'm not sure if they actually won the Best in Show, but I certainly hope they did. So a lot of things to look forward to. And I actually set this up because today, the seated soliloquy is a common line that we often hear, which is this idea that your network is your net worth. Look, we don't figure out what we're worth until such time that we really need to apply and deploy that network. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Oftentimes, I just saw the other day that Facebook or Meta are laying off, I don't know, 10,000 more employees, maybe more, I think, but a really whopping large number. And when you are kicked to the curb, when you are cast aside, that's when you get to see what you're worth, because that's when you're able to tap into your network. That's when you get to, I call it the honeymoon phase. That's when you get to see who really is your friend, as opposed to just people that refer to you as my friend, and who's there, who's going to be there for you when the chips are down. Now, for me, I got to tell you, I go to South by Southwest by myself. I don't have a wingman, a wingwoman, a wing person. I don't have a team. I arrived there without an agenda, without any plans. In fact, I went to an Axios party on Monday night, thanks to the person that I sat next to on the plane going to Austin. Now, on the other side of me was Anthony Scaramucci, who you just saw in the introduction. Funnily enough, I'm not sure that he actually knows or remembers creating that little intro for me for the show. But I think the point that I just want you to take away is, look, you don't make 100% of the shots you don't take. 99% of all short putts never go in the hole. When you put yourself out there, when you arrive at a networking event, just be friendly. Just talk to anyone, everyone, all the time, in the toilet, at the bar, talk to the bouncer. Be curious. Don't be afraid to be rejected. And by the way, there's no more powerful place to begin than on a plane, that captive audience. You don't want to be the yapper, the person with verbal diarrhea that can't shut up for a moment, but at the same time, don't put on your headphones, don't be antisocial, make conversation, be polite, or when somebody tries to talk to you, just give them the time of day, make that little bit of a connection, because you never know when your network is going to prove to be your net worth. And now, speaking of making the network net worth, or work, I should say, making the network working the net, whatever, it's time for my guest, Eli Facenda. Eli, known as the Travel Guy, is the founder of Freedom Travel Systems. He is a travel-loving entrepreneur who has learned the secret strategies of the credit card game that enables him to get $100,000 plus of luxury travel per year entirely on points. Please share this with me. He's going to pull back the curtain to show you how to maximize credit to create your dream first-class travel lifestyle without having to pay for it. Does that sound too good to be true? Well, hopefully it isn't. And before I bring him on, I just thought maybe, just maybe, you want to have a look at this.
Look, if you're a business owner and you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month on a credit card, and you're not quite sure if you're really maximizing those points, well, I've got news for you. You are in the right place. And unfortunately, if you're like 95% of the business owners that we talk to and work with, you probably are leaving tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table every single year by not maximizing the credit cards that you use and the points that you earn from those. My name is Eli Facenda, aka Eli the Travel Guy, the founder here at Freedom Travel Systems, and I want to welcome you briefly to our homepage and share a little bit more about what you can expect here and how we might be able to support you on your journey to maximizing the money that you're already spending in both your business and personal life. So we here at Freedom Travel Systems believe that every single dollar spent inside of your business should be maximized. You should be getting the highest possible return on that spend. So ultimately, you're probably facing two main challenges. Number one is that you're probably not fully aware of what actually is possible and what it means to fully maximize your credit card points. For a lot of us, credit card points seem like a cool kind of silly thing, or you may even be thinking, I have cash back cards, I don't like credit card points. Well, it comes down to number one, having awareness and just running the numbers. We're business owners and we need to be thinking about what our bottom line actually is. So it's important to run those numbers and calculate it. And I'll give you a quick example. If you spent $100,000 on a credit card and you had a credit card that got you 2% cash back, you're getting $2,000 after you spent $100,000, 2%. Right, but what if you had a card that earned 3 points per dollar and you got 3 cents per point out of those points? Now you just got 9% back with a couple of very small tweaks. You just went from $2,000 to $9,000. And that's only if you were spending $100,000 a year, right? So imagine now ratcheting this up and you could earn more points and you can use even better value out of those points. And then you had the ability to really enjoy these once in a lifetime amazing travel experiences out of these points. What would that do for you? What would that do for you personally? What would that do for your business? What would that do for your team members that you could incentivize, or your family members that you could put on amazing trips for, or potentially partners or investors or key staff and key clients? You can use these points for so many different things. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, to number one, learn what's possible. And then number two, have a system to be able to do this without you having to spend the time, then go ahead and fill out the application form below. Our team will jump on and walk you through exactly what's possible for you. And then also how you could start to systemize this and how we may be able to support you in that process. Because ultimately, what's most important as a business owner is our time and energy is focused on what matters. Building our business, spending time with family and friends, and really focusing on those high leverage activities. Managing credit card points and figuring all this out probably isn't one of them, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So schedule a call below and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.
Come on, let's go. I'm filling out the form as we speak. In fact, I will share that with people as well. Eli, welcome to the show.
Awesome, Joseph. So good to be on here, and thank you for having me. And yeah, thanks for sharing that video in the front. I think it gives people some good context as to what's possible, kind of a little more about me. So I appreciate that, and I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, well, listen, if you thought we were just gonna talk about the business side of travel, you were mistaken, my friend, because what we do is we want to hear about the person, with the personal side. We want the dirt. We send our reporters into the field to find out some interesting fun facts about you, and we were absolutely shocked, dismayed, appalled. I'm just kidding. None of the above. But this is what we found out about you. Yes, there is some scandal. For example, you've never seen Star Wars. How could you never have seen Star Wars? What are you watching on the plane, for God's sake?
It's so funny because it started out as something like where it was just like a fun, kind of a fun, like, fun fact for like a party or like a class in like high school or college. And I remember using that. And it got such a reaction from people. I was like, shit, now I never can watch Star Wars because it's such a good fun fact to share with people. So I never got into it. And then, I started to look at it. I'm like, damn, how many are there? There's like 7 of them or something. And I'm like, it's like 2 hours per movie and it's like 15 hours. I don't think I'm ever going to watch it. So I'm a non-Star Wars guy. I'm also not a big like sci-fi guy. It's just not really my thing. I know a lot of people are into it, but on planes, I typically use planes I don't watch a lot of movies, to be honest. I'll watch a couple, but more like reading, podcasts, and like deep work stuff that's offline. So that's what I'm doing on planes instead of watching Star Wars. But I hear it's great.
Well, I've never seen it myself, so I wouldn't know. I'm just kidding. I have just trying to like endear myself to you.
Right.
You mentioned something, and we'll move backwards and forwards a little bit, but maximizing your time on a plane and maximizing the experience on the plane.
Yeah.
And you spoke about the fact that you actually try and be productive. When I flew back from Austin yesterday, I resisted the urge to connect on Wi-Fi because it's still not the greatest experience, but also just to try and wean myself off being connected all the time. I'll just tell you a very quick anecdote is when I wrote my first book, in particular, Life After the 30-Second Spot, there was no Wi-Fi on the plane. There weren't even power outlets. And so I had a very fancy laptop because I had a spare battery. That's all. And
Nice.
so I would come in with both batteries. And I remember the light was blinking, and I knew the power was going to die. And I was saving every line, every word, because I didn't want to lose what I was writing. And then I would reboot with the second battery. And when both batteries were dead, I'd probably written 10,000 or 8,000 or 7,000 words.
Wow.
Now, like an idiot, I'm plugged in, I'm connected to Wi-Fi, I'm streaming, I'm watching, crap movies. And I feel like even though I know what's best, I'm not maximizing that my time on the plane.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I mean, I feel like flying is a great microcosm example of that. But it's pretty commonplace for all of us throughout the day. There's these like small little things that can grab our attention and seem like, oh, I'll just check one email, right? And then you're online. Then all of a sudden you're watching cat videos on Instagram or something. And it's like, shit, I could have like written half a book here or something. So I totally agree with that. And that is one of the benefits I like about flying. For me, like travel is there's like all this, emotion that comes with it, from when you're just like planning the trip to the rise and feeling anticipation, but also like getting on a plane sometimes for me is just like really exciting. And so there's a lot of like kind of interesting energy. And when you get into like that mode and you don't have connection, it just like creates kind of a cool kind of flow state for me, at least, where I'm just like really able to tap into some creativity or some clarity around things that normally I don't have enough silence around to be able to focus on. And when you're locked in the middle too for a while, sometimes that's the best time to do that stuff. Although I did hear in your intro, you were talking about, connecting with other people. And I also love that too. I mean, there's so many cool conversations and interesting people. And like, also, I think interesting conversations that come out of people that normally you wouldn't really have when you're on a plane, you sit next to them, if they're receptive and open to talking. I love that too. I'm a huge advocate for striking up the casual conversation, on a flight. So I'm all about it.
I had one of my most enjoyable experiences flying back from Dallas, sitting next to a Scot. and I ordered, I don't know, a Dewar's or something like that on the rocks. And he was like, "Laddie, don't drink a Dewar's." I said, well, what do you like? And he said, "Lad, you've got to have a Glen Rothes, Rothes, Glen Rothes." And it actually became my favorite Scotch from just chatting next to a Scot and telling him about my love for Speyside single malt scotches. So and I've perfected the accent over the years too. I think
I was gonna say that sounds like it took you down a path of either moving to Scotland or taking a
yeah,
class.
exactly.
That's pretty damn good.
I'm actually from Edinburgh, but I just hide the accent with my Staten Island type of accent. So do you think that maybe we should actually make it a bigger deal to fly? You know, the fact is, when you look at Mad Men and you look at all these period pieces, if you will, I mean, period, like going back to, I don't know, the 60s, or people would dress up for the plane and they would wear suits, and it was a big deal.
Mhm.
And now we're like a bunch of schlumpfs. Like, are we actually kind of letting you should see me, I'm wearing pajamas by the time the flight takes off.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's so funny. And you know what? There is something fun about that. I mean, there's times where I dress casually too, but like every now and then I'll just throw something on. You kind of feel like you got a little extra pep in your step when you're on the flight. I've never gone full suit on a plane, but that's pretty common. And actually, I just had a big trip. It was a 3-week adventure. I held a ski mastermind in France with 40 entrepreneurs. I then went to the pyramids in Amsterdam. But on the flight over, I was able to get some of these people are our clients, some just friends for this trip. We had 25 people on Emirates business class, and there's an aircraft, the A380 with Emirates, that actually has a shower for first class passengers, but business and first class get a bar too, like an entire lounge in the sky.
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
I've never seen that picture before.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're denying it, but we have cameras in those showers.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's not good. You see a lot of interesting things up there.
Like that. What was that experience like, by the way?
Oh man, well the shower was really cool. You know, it was. I mean, this was. I showered on one I did in May where I went to Dubai, and I'll give you a quick story on that, and then share a little bit about the dressing thing. But it was pretty funny because I had flown from LA to New York, and I was with my business partner, and we were enjoying some nice, business and first class drinks, some champagne, good stuff. Went to the Emirates Lounge, so we already had like a 5-hour day of just like indulgence, right? Then we take off from New York and the party just keeps going. They've got, the caviar, they got Dom Perignon, like all this cool stuff, which to me is like, is it necessary? Absolutely not at all. But does it make a trip way more fun? Heck yes. So we're doing that whole thing. And then by this point, I mean, it had been a full day of indulging. I don't even really drink much, but on a flight like that, I'm going to go for it. And then we wake up somewhere over London. And I felt like, I don't know if you've ever seen like when SpongeBob like doesn't have water and it feels like a dry sponge or something like that. I woke up and looked at the flight attendant and I was like, water, like I need water. And I was like, where are we? She's like, we're somewhere over London. I was like, we still have 7 hours. And so at this point, I'm like, this is terrible. She's like, but your shower's ready. And I'm like, I'll be fine. And so I ended up getting a shower, that was a really cool experience. And yeah, I don't know how many more times I'll do that because there's only 2 planes in the world that have a shower on them. But that was really cool. But then when flying with the group was super fun because it was like a networking event on a plane. And for that one, people kind of dressed up a little bit more because it was kind of a different type of event. But yeah, I think travel in general, people kind of generally view it as almost like a hassle in the way to get to where they're going. And I think what's cool about like the kind of parallel that you're drawing is like maybe in the 50s and 60s and previously it was like a part of the experience of the trip that you were going on, whether it was business or personal. And that's how I try to view things too. And that's why I like the travel hacking stuff and the point stuff is because if you can make the moment you leave the door at your house, like kind of a part of the experience and a part of the excitement, it just makes the entire trip more enjoyable. It makes you want to go more and have more adventure, have more fun. So that's a big kind of piece of why I love this too. So I'm all on board for that.
And it also, look, it really does talk to showing up in life. Like whatever you do, be all in, do it properly or don't do it at all. So I only have one more question to ask you, which is when you are on these planes in first class, living the life with caviar and Dom, are you also asking for butter in your coffee? Because how's that for a segue, by the way?
That was beautiful. Well
Because
done.
you put butter in your coffee, and I actually did a little bit of research on it, and you're not as weird, as Austin-y weird as I thought. It's actually quite a thing. It's a thing to put butter in your coffee.
It totally is. Yeah, Bulletproof Coffee. So Dave Asprey, founder of Bulletproof, he doesn't own the company currently, his own stuff, but he invented the kind of the whole like biohacking word. Actually, I think he coined it, turned into this whole industry. But that was something that he came up with. I think it was some like trip he had taken to the Himalayas or something. He saw these like monks or something like that putting yak butter in their tea and mixing it. And then he started experimenting with it with the coffee. And like when you do that with MCT oil, you get like the kind of benefits of coffee, but you also get just like this really good focus and kind of more steady energy, I think. So I started doing that like 8 years ago. It's become less weird, but it's still, for a lot of people, they're like, that sounds disgusting. But then we think about it, like most of us put cream in coffee and cream and butter, kind of same thing. So it's not as weird as it sounds, and it tastes amazing. But I actually have put butter in my coffee on a flight before. So you were right on that. I'll actually travel with like my whole setup of like ways to, keep my health game going, because it can get kind of difficult if you're traveling like really fast and you're at events. There's all these temptations of food and alcohol all the time. So I have like a little frother that I bring to blend it. So I got like a whole toolkit of stuff, but that is something funny, a funny call out, because it's true.
Yeah, I love that. So you actually bring the frother onto the plane.
Yeah. Yep. There's a frother I'll bring. I have a whole bunch, like a whole other couple different things too. But that's a big one.
So, I'll ask one more question about travel in general, and then I think we can, and then I want to start talking about, like, let's get into the hacks. You mentioned this beautiful point, right, about travel as a hassle versus travel as an experience. And the reality is that the airlines and the TSA and the terrorists and, quite frankly, everyone has made travel a bit of a hassle. And I feel like maybe we're getting back there slowly, but surely. It's probably something that has to work both ways. But the ability for us, they're little things like having an espresso or a cappuccino on a plane, like really kind of just making it something special so that the journey is as powerful as the destination. What are you seeing just in terms of like just some of these trends where travel is becoming a little bit more pleasant and bearable again?
Totally. Yeah, it's a great question, because the industry is evolving in such a unique way. And it's also interesting to see, I mean, most of the people watching the show, if they're US based, right, we're familiar with the domestic airlines. But when you start to travel on a larger international scale and you fly on some of these premium international carriers, specifically out of Asia and the Middle East, in a couple of European ones, you just realize like, whoa, travel can look really different. If you fly, I just flew out of Doha, in and out of Doha on that last trip. And so I was flying on Qatar Airways. That experience is like night and day compared to anything that we'd have here in the US. And so you just see, wow, what is possible? It kind of reminds you maybe of what travel used to be like decades ago. But you start to see what is possible from doing this, right? And whether it's just the way the staff is trained, how they treat you, the kind of food, the experience of the seats, the in-flight entertainment, like literally like every single piece of it, the security, the airport is just a level above. So I do think that that the industry itself is kind of due for some disruption and innovation. And it's a tough one to disrupt because it's so big and so established. But there's actually a guy I know out of the UK, a guy named James Asquith, and I haven't caught up with him in a while, but he's one of the world's most frequent travelers. He's been to every country in the world. I think he was actually the youngest male to have visited every country. And he's kind of almost like a Richard Branson, like a little bit of a renegade, and has been working on a project to launch a new airline that's going to fly between the UK and the US. And he's got so many cool pieces that he's innovating with into his products, whether it's like the in-flight experience where he's adding in like a gaming feature for a lot of people that are now into that, and is ready to kind of just take some of these kind of archaic, outdated, antiquated airlines and just bring something that's going to make everyone level up. And I think that's kind of the piece that's necessary, is there's got to be someone that disrupts things and starts to elevate everyone else, because across the board, especially in the US, you're right. Like it does kind of feel like a hassle for a lot of people, and there's ways to optimize that for everyone. Obviously, first class is going to be a much more enjoyable experience than economy. Being in a lounge is better than being at the gate. Speeding through security is much better than waiting in line. But across the board, there's ways to really enhance the experience. And I think flying overseas on some of these premier carriers, you'll see that more and more too.
I am salivating at the moment thinking about this. And if he hasn't named his airline yet, it seems to me I'll give him the name for free. All he has to do is just let me try it out. He should call it Level Up.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Level Up Airlines. I've got to reach out to him. I've got to try and get him on the show. And I love this. He's been to he's been to every country.
Yeah. I think every there's like 196 like official countries, I think it is. And he's been to every single one. So he's a really, really interesting guy, British guy, and just like high energy, just a machine and he's on a mission right now, which is really cool to see and to be a part of from afar, So he's got another company called Holiday Swap as well. It's kind of like Airbnb meets vacation swapping for homes. So he's been in the travel industry for a while, was an investment banker and all this stuff. So certainly an interesting person to follow, and he's got a huge social media following. But every country. So he's got stories for days as well.
So wait, is this him? I think we might have a photo of him. That's not him.
Yeah,
right?
that's not quite him, but it looks just a dash off.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Up in the Air for me was such an experience because American is my airline. I've flown just under 3 million miles. I've been executive platinum with them since 2006.
Wow.
And 1 year I was awarded concierge key, and I have no idea why. No idea. And I flew that year more than I'd ever flown in my life. I spent more money with them, more than I'd ever spent in my life. I was doing a lot of business class and first class travel for speaking as a keynote speaker. And then they took it away. And I was like, I don't know. This is like Fight Club, right? The first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
Exactly.
Nobody even knew about concierge key before this movie. And it just, the mystique and the aura and the drama and the 10 million miles and is it worth it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Amex Black Card too, right? It's like this mystique thing that all of our, like half of our clients, when they talk to us, are like, okay, what's the hack to get the Amex Black Card? It's like, I don't know what the hack is, but honestly, it's not even like if I had an Amex Black Card or, an Amex Gold and I was going to the grocery store, I would use the Amex Gold anyway. So I think a lot of the times it's like just the prestige around it. But if you think about it, it just speaks to the power of these brands. You create this amazing level of engagement through a high level customer loyalty program where people will be so loyal to an airline at the chance of getting that. And then you may get it and it may not even be that cool, but it just feels so rewarding, right? To have gotten to this like level that you unlock where you stuck through all of the things. You've been with this airline forever. So I think that's just an interesting experiment of customer loyalty programs too. The airlines are the king, they're the legends of it all. So.
There's so much interesting insight in what you just said from a marketing standpoint, because there are two things I take away from what you said. Number one is, again, the journey is almost more powerful than the destination. The journey to get the card versus actually having the card.
Totally.
But the other one is the fact that it's just something that lives in and sits with a few people. And yet it actually benefits the entire brand because it's like, oh, you've got a black card. Oh, you're a concierge key. And so there's that aura that almost has this beautiful halo effect. And that is one thing the airlines have done really, really well. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, they're all playing a different game, right? Southwest they don't care about that. They just want, people getting on with free bags and shuffling in, and their flight attendants are going to make good jokes, and that's their shtick. But I totally agree. For the corporate road warrior or the executive traveler, those things matter to a lot of people. And one of my favorite, I love sometimes one of the main reasons I love flying on like these big first class airlines overseas, particularly, is I love to see how pretentious people can get sometimes, because to me, it's just like almost laughable. And specifically like flying Lufthansa first class, you're around some maybe like really, aristocratic German travelers. And it's just almost like entertaining to watch of how serious they take things and how entitled they feel to get upset with things. And some of it understandably so, sometimes airlines drop the ball, but that to me is a part of the experience in its own right, which can be highly entertaining too.
I love it. The humor of pretentiousness. In fact, I was actually flying back yesterday, and I was hearing a story of someone who is concierge key, and they were called out because they were getting like the special treatment and being escorted on the plane. And someone called them out and said, why would you go and just show off and throw your status in everyone's face? And I was thinking, because that's what the status means. And
Right.
it's almost like your concierge key and you're flaunting it in front of us. I'm like, what would you want me to do? Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like if you're boarding and you walk up to the queue, right? And it's like group 8 is boarding and you're in group 1 and there's like a line of 30 people. And you're like, do I just cut everybody and go right to the front? It's like sometimes you don't do it because it's just too much. But there's other times you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the guy and just go right through.
I walk past and I go, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. I'm just joking.
Yeah, there's a hilarious Instagram reel on that. I'll send it to you after the show. And also one thing you'll probably enjoy on the pretentiousness. Actually, this trend, it kind of went viral on social media. Actually, kind of helped blow up my business a little bit. It was started by that guy James Asquith, he's kind of, again, that renegade type person. So he's flying on first class, all these CEOs of big companies, whatever it may be, but people that take themselves really seriously in life. And he created this thing called Slammer Time, where he would get the glass of champagne that he's got and just chug it and call it Slammer Time. And it was kind of a way to like just have some fun and like ruffle some feathers in first class. So we would start doing that, and it became this crazy trend. And all over social media, and like all of our clients, when they're traveling now, they'll be like, "Hey, Slammer Time!" They'll like take the champagne and cheers and chug the thing. But it became this a little bit of an obnoxious feedback loop for me, because on Instagram, where we have a lot of our presence for our brand, I would post an Instagram story of a Slammer Time. The engagement would be so high that every time I was traveling, people would be like, "Where's the Slammer?" And so then I have to start like chugging champagne while I'm traveling, where I'm like, "Oh, I'm like, kind of tired today. I don't really want to like have a bunch of glasses of champagne." And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if I want the engagement from the brand, you got to do what you got to do. So definitely, pun intended, champagne problem to have. But that was kind of a funny little trend that was created in spite of that whole situation we're talking about, that dynamic.
Yeah,
like
kind of first world problems. And I also just now I get the joke, which is not hammer time, it's Slammer Time.
There you go, exactly.
But from now on, every single time I do somehow fly first class or business class, I shall be slamming the Prosecco or the cheap champagne that American Airlines gives me. Just kidding. I love you, American. Please give me an upgrade. All right. So it's interesting to me when we're talking about the experience. We talk about the joys of travel. But first of all, you got to put yourself in the position to actually be able to fly and conduct Slammer Time, if you will. So let's get into what you do and how you do it. And I will tell you, like, I will be, I will be your best test subject. I've got my Amex Platinum. I've got my Advantage City card. I don't know that I've used any, and I'm going to say any of my credit cards ever to get anything in terms of my flying. So it's not what am I doing wrong? I'm doing everything wrong. Tell me what I should be doing right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, we'll start from the top. So first thing is, I kind of mentioned this in the video you saw in the beginning. Like, let's get a clear idea of what becomes possible if you do it right. For most people, there's not enough awareness around it, and that prevents people from starting, because like, why would I even look at this or spend time on it? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I get it. You can get a few points here and there, or maybe some cash back cards. This is very different than like, maybe it's something that's kind of similar in some ways, like accounting. Most people know they need an accountant. Most people know that maybe they're overpaying with taxes and it hurts because they can visibly see it. With this, it's a little bit of a hidden cost that you're paying every time you swipe your credit card if you're not maximizing things. And so there's really a couple of different things you want to look at first. Number one is you want to get a clear idea of what are the things that you're spending the most on. So whether you're an individual or a business owner, you want to look at, am I spending a lot on groceries? Is it dining? Is it travel? Is it shipping costs? Is it social media ads? Is it software? There's all these different categories. And then we've all seen them. There's certain cards that are going to say, hey, you're going to earn 2x points on this, 3x points on this. And from there, you want to get a sense of what do I want to maximize around so that I can make sure to earn the most possible points on every dollar spent. So that's kind of the first piece. From there, the next part is going to be around making sure that you're earning the right points, because all of these different points are kind of like currencies. You've got American Airlines miles, you've got British Airways Avios, you've got American Express points, you've got Citi points, you've got Chase points, you've got Marriott Bonvoy points, and they're all worth slightly different things and be used for different things too. And so what a very common mistake that a lot of people make is they're earning points that don't give them as many options, and they're just not as valuable as other points that they could be earning. So you want to make sure that you've got the right cards in line to maximize every dollar you're spending, but you want to make sure you're earning the right points to be able to get the highest possible value out of those. So those are the first couple of steps there. So the question for you, Joseph, would be like, what are some of the top expenses that you have? Because we want to start there and think about what are the cards that will earn you the highest possible return for those types of purchases.
You know, for me, one of my biggest expenses is travel. It is hotel and airfare, and then I think to myself, so I use my Amex Platinum card because I try and put all my business expenses on this particular card. And I certainly have Amex miles over the years, which I've never used for travel. I know there's some companion stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess my conflict is then I've got this American Airlines City Aviator card,
Yeah.
but I'm not buying American and One World flights on that card because I'm trying to keep everything for accounting and tax purposes on my Platinum. And then the other thing is often I'll be using miles to upgrade or miles. And so I'll be doing it through American as opposed to sometimes realizing, and to your point, there is a calculator and a calculation. And sometimes when it's 25,000 miles or $250 or $450, sometimes it's going to make more sense to actually spend the money versus use the miles.
100%. Yeah. And everyone's got a different situation with that, right? Like in terms of how much discretionary income they have to spend on travel. Is it the difference between a trip happening or not? Is it the difference between business and first class? Is it a business expense where if you pay for cash, paying cash, it's going to be a write-off anyways? Or is this, a personal trip where if you use points, you're saving money because it's not a tax deduction, right? So there's all sorts of different pieces of that. But yeah, what you touched on is important, right? Like you got to figure out which points make sense for you so that you can find ways to use them effectively for you. So an example, right? If you're American Airlines Executive Platinum, you will get upgrades into first class with your status. So what you can do is book economy-based tickets and get upgraded automatically, right? Instead of using miles to upgrade, assuming the seats are available. So each airline has a different protocol with when you can get upgraded, if it has to be a cash fare versus a mileage fare. But one of the strategies that you could potentially use is you could earn points on your Amex Platinum because it's easier to earn more points on that card. And then you could actually convert those points into British Airways, which is a One World partner with American. And on short American Airlines trips, British will actually charge about sometimes like literally half the price in miles for the same ticket that American would charge. So if you're flying from New York to Chicago, American Airlines, and it's a $1,000 fare for a first class ticket or $500, whatever it may be, right? American's going to charge certain mileage, and if the seat's available with British Airways, you could probably use those points and convert American Express points into British Airways to book it for half. So this is where things get a little bit hairy and complicated because there's all these ways to transfer points from these bank programs like Amex, Chase, Citi, and Capital One, and then you can convert them into all these airline partnerships. And that's how you can basically maximize the value. Now, memorizing that, learning that, it can become a lot of information. That's why it's either helpful to, dive in and really understand this if you're interested and passionate about it and you have the time, or get help with it because it could just be a lot of information. The rules are kind of always changing. But overall, that's the main thing right there is it's getting bank points that can be converted and then finding ways to get the best arbitrage when you convert them into different airline programs. So that's ultimately the strategy that I would use for you. So with a lot of airfare purchases and travel purchases, yes, using your Amex Platinum to purchase that airfare would make sense because you've already got top status with American. So there's no real benefit of spending more on an American Airlines card. And then once you have all those points with these different banks, then when you want to redeem them for tickets, you can convert them into airlines and book that way and get anywhere from usually 3 to 10x the value that you'd normally get if you're using those Amex points for statement credits, or if you're using them through Amex Travel, or even if you're using them for like Amazon purchases. Those are all ways where you're basically just hemorrhaging cash compared to what's possible using them for other flights.
I don't want to be hemorrhaging anything anytime, let me tell you. But that's great. And I want to be one of these people. I want to create videos where I'm crowing and screaming and singing and extolling the virtues of this new lifestyle. But I see, you are on a mission as well, which is, wow, it's like the mission to help redeem and fund 10 million every year for the Freedom Travel Systems community. And $40,000 to $75,000 is the average amount small business owners are leaving on the table every single year by not maximizing the potential of their credit. So I'd love for you to talk about these missed opportunities and, in addition, common mistakes with points and really just how most people have no idea. They don't know what they don't know for the most part.
Totally. Exactly it. Yeah. So the cool part about this is it really does come down to kind of simple math numbers, which we don't need to totally break down here, but But that's what I encourage people to do, is to check that out, because as I put in that, is you shared in that video that you played in the beginning, you want to look at earning the most points for every dollar spent and then getting the most value out of those points. So again, simple example, most people, if they're just using general cards, they're going to earn 1 point per dollar and everything, and they're going to get 1 cent per point. So you spend, $100, you get $1 back. Well, if you have the right cards, you're going to earn more points than every dollar, and then you're going to get more value out of those points. So you can get, $9 back out of every 100 you spend, right? So 9% versus 1%. So specifically for business owners, you scale that to $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million a year. That's hundreds, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars that can be recouped on, in addition to really unlocking these dream travel experiences, getting more kind of upgraded experiences like you're experiencing with Executive Platinum, getting more lounges, free bags, faster security, more upgrades, for hotels, getting suite upgrades, early check-in, late checkout, free breakfast, all that stuff. And these are things that you ultimately, like, if you're going to spend the money and you can get these, you should really turn on the right systems to be able to generate those benefits, in my opinion, because you're already going to spend the money. So it doesn't make sense to, spend $500,000 to get, a vacuum on Amazon, when you could take that same amount of spend and take, $20,000 trip to the Maldives, fly first class for 2 people, and have like a memory making experience that brings you and your family closer together, or your loved ones, or whatever it may be. So that's kind of just how I think is, like, at the end of the day, I zoom out and look at what are these overall life experiences I want to create, is generally going to be like amazing connections and experiences with other people. Travel tends to be one of the best vehicles for that. So that's why I look at it through the lens of maximizing it for that. But that's that's a little bit of, again, most business owners kind of what they're missing on. And you don't have to use it for yourself if you don't travel enough, maybe you have young kids or something like that. So there are ways to use this for team members or family members and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But overall, I think this is also just a tool of justification for people. You've probably had these dream trips. Maybe it's an African safari for 10 days or going to Australia, New Zealand. And it's like, you start to look at the cost, and then you start to justify why, it doesn't really make sense. I can't really do this. When you start to have this strategy in place, you can ask different questions of like, hey, if I have the flexibility to go anywhere in the world tomorrow, I can fly first class anywhere. Like, where would I want to go? Like, I can do hotels for free. I got the food pretty much covered. It starts to give you different options and different ways of thinking, which to me just opens up more adventure in your life too.
Well, let me tell you something. I did spend 100,000 points to buy a vacuum cleaner, and it sucked. Sorry. Okay. What? No, but in
literally,
but in all seriousness, if you can show me how to get first class tickets to go to the Maldives, Eli, I'm taking you with me.
That's great.
You're my partner.
Done deal.
My wife is like, what the hell?
Exactly. Yeah, that's always the fun stuff, right? The big international things are where you get the biggest arbitrage. I'll give you an example, right? That Emirates flight where we took the shower. Break down some numbers for you. So that ticket cost $15,000 in cash. Well, $14,500 to go from JFK to Dubai first class. Okay, so definitely not going to pay that. Now, if you do what most people do, they're going to go to Amex Travel and they're going to use what's called the travel portal. Now, the way this works, and behind the scenes info for you, is these travel portals are technically what's called online travel agencies, or OTAs. And all they're doing is they're taking the points you have with American Express. You're essentially paying Amex. You're redeeming your points at a fixed value with them. So they give you 1 cent per point, and then they're buying the ticket from the airline. Okay. So they're a travel agency. You're cashing in with them. They're buying the ticket. They're the intermediary. Done. Right. So you can see with that, if it's a really expensive ticket, it's going to cost a lot of points. Now, airlines and hotels have something called an award chart. And this is where the whole magic comes together. They have a different way of pricing based on the region you're flying, the distance you're flying, the zone you're flying to and from. So for Emirates, for example, when I booked this, flying from the East Coast of the US to Dubai was 135,000 points, I think, something like that. Right. And so instead of paying $14,500 and instead of paying 1.45 million Amex points through Amex Travel, I was able to take my Amex points, convert them to Emirates, and get a $14,500 ticket for about 136,000 points. Okay. So now you can take it a step further and say, well, how would you generate 136,000 points? Well, I'll give you another example. If you spent, let's call it, $2,500 a month on dining and groceries, and you had the Amex Gold, that's going to earn you 4 points per dollar. Okay. So over the course of a year, you're going to earn right around that amount, that 136,000. And so just from getting the right card for groceries and dining, you could earn enough points to book a ticket to Dubai in first class that would be on Emirates. And that's one example, right? You don't have to go as crazy far, but these big international first class flights tend to be the best opportunities for arbitrage because the cost is just so egregious. Going first class to Japan sometimes is like $20,000, $25,000. So if you're able to maximize for that, you're going to get even more value out of it. And that's how I'm getting, 100 to 150K a year. Is I take a couple of those flights a year. I get a lot of awesome domestic trips too. Austin to Miami, Austin to New York, upgrades and stuff like that, and free hotel stays. But the big bang, trips are going to be the ones where you see like 10, 20, 30, $40,000 in savings.
I mean, come on, let's go. Let's go. It's incredible. I'm almost thinking like, are you like on the most wanted list? Like when you start to like arrive at the airport, they're like, here comes the travel guy. It's like, what has he done to us this time?
So you'll find it funny. There's actually a guy, I forget his name, but he was one of the first people to publicize this stuff. And as social media has grown, these kind of hacks and strategies have become more common, which means the brands catch on, which means they change the rules. It's kind of like taxes, right? If there's a loophole that gets taken advantage of for too long, they may like rewrite the tax code or change things or shift things around, right? And ultimately, the airlines and hotels are creating this game. So the fact that we even get to play it, and particularly here in the US, is really the main country where this exists to the level that it does. You can still do it in the UK and Canada and Australia, some European countries, but it's more difficult in other countries because of the banking system. But a lot to say, when he was first kind of coming out, there was a guy who really popularized this stuff, and he got a lot of bad PR about it, but it exploded his brand. But what he would do is, I think he was in New York, and he would go to the airport every day, and he wouldn't even necessarily take a flight. He would like book a ticket, get into the lounges, and then cancel the ticket, get the points refunded, and just spend the whole day, like 12 hours working in all the lounges, free food, free champagne. He's networking, he's got Wi-Fi, and he basically just worked out of there for like a long time until they caught on and eventually got into a lot of trouble. But he was hacking the system in that way and just like using it as his office, which is pretty hilarious.
That's crazy. And can you imagine how many slammer times he actually did in those lounges?
Dangerous amounts.
I love that. Well, you said something that's so interesting to me, which is the game. It is a game. And it's almost like kind of like a catch me if you can. But it makes it enjoyable as well. And it's no different to the fact that Amex Platinum sends all these offers, $200 this turn. Who redeems them? It's like buying a membership to the gym. Mm-hmm. They all make money from people that don't show up, that don't take advantage. And so when someone like you comes along, I mean, Erica, I'm sure you've been following Erica, I forget her last name, but she's blown up on Instagram as well. She was just on the Today Show. She's also coming with all these hacks about luggage redemptions if they like lose your luggage, etc. It's like all the stuff they don't want you to know. But actually, they probably do want you to know, because what it does, it's like that black card. It just creates the mystique and aura that because we want to have fun.
Exactly. Yeah, I think about that all the time, because I'm like, on some level, there's definitely people that work in the reservation department and loyalty programs that understand all the numbers behind this. And they know there's probably people like me out there that are really taking advantage of the system. And there's a pretty solid, sizable, quote unquote, travel hacking community. But in the grand scheme of things, it's such a small number compared to the amount of people that are actually going to figure this out. So I think on some level, there's probably a lot of excitement of like, ooh, these people are using our points, and they're kind of, showcasing what's possible. And then they know that most people are probably going to get the card. They're never actually going to figure this out. And they're just going to end up, being a normal consumer that's paying the $95 annual fee and generates the bank a bunch of money. The airlines are happy. The banks are happy. Case closed. So yeah, exactly.
This schmuck,
yeah. And it's complicated. That's the thing, right? This took me, I started out doing this for different reasons than a lot of people do, but I came out of college and I had studied abroad in Barcelona. I was starting up this international sports tour company. I was the first employee, and I'm like 22 years old. I went to Lehigh University. It was a finance degree. All my friends are going to Wall Street to make a lot of money there, and I'm making like a fifth of what they're going to make. But I had freedom, and I was like, I want to take trips with them. I want to do my own trips. I need to figure this out. And I'd heard about kind of travel hacking, and I was like, you know what? This could be a cool way to do that. And so I started diving in and learning more. And essentially, it became this hobby that became a skill set. But it took me like 7 years of learning this stuff. I had no intention of starting a business around it. But it was a lot of information. That's why I always suggest to people, like, become aware of what's possible. And then if you are interested as a hobby or passion because of the gamification, which a lot of the internal satisfaction comes from just like winning in that sense. If you like it for that reason, go all in, read the articles, go get obsessed, watch YouTube, hack your way out of it. But if you're someone that's like, dude, I don't care about that, I just want to travel and get better experiences, then it does make sense to either use the software, use a service, hire a team, or like talk to someone that's good at it. And just make the most out of that kind of stuff. Whether it's us, there's a lot of people online for different types of folks out there that can help. But that's what I suggest, because you might just spin yourself in circles, spending hours trying to get a ticket where it's like, it's just not worth your time. If you're a busy person, you're a parent, you're a business owner, stuff like that. Your time's better spent with other things, in my opinion. But that's the whole idea, is like, you should still take advantage of the system. I just wouldn't spend all the time to do it on your own.
I know what I'll be doing in about 2 or 3 minutes. And it seems so weird, because I almost feel like, let's just say, for the record, I am not being paid anything to host you, and you are not paying me anything. I just love this space and I love the business. And I was thinking to myself, let me be your ambassador, because first of all, I was thinking the justification to actually work with you is so obvious, because you can actually quantify it. You can actually qualify it and quantify it. And it's not just in terms of doing the legwork, the grunt work, the heavy lifting, but it's also the gamification. It's staying ahead, one step ahead of the airlines and Amex, etc. And you know what? I'm seriously motivated by the fact that I want to plan that Maldives. You were asking me about where do I want to go. I guess there are two places for me most of all. Maldives for sure. Galapagos Islands probably. I think my wife for the most part, and maybe somewhere in the middle is Machu Picchu. But
Cool.
those are my 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. And I've keynoted myself in over 50 countries.
Amazing. So cool. Yeah, that's the ultimate hack. If you can have something where people are paying for you to come, that's hack number 1. Hack number 2 is, if it's your own trip, use the points and stuff. But yeah, all those, and that's the fun part, right? Almost everything you can find a way to apply the points model to some extent. Airbnb's not going to do it. Certain countries are harder to get to. Galapagos is a difficult one to get all the way there on points, but you can get the main flight right down to Ecuador, to go down to South America. You can get you can do the whole point strategy. So yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, appreciate you having me on to share this, because again, the thing that's exciting to me is like, anyone can do this. Yes, if you spend $1 million a year, obviously it's going to be a lot easier, but you don't have to do that. When I was starting out, I was spending $1,500 a month. And for me, the goal was like 2 to 3 really cool trips a year. And that was it. And I was so stoked. I was getting like $15,000 to $20,000 a year off of $1,500 a month. So it doesn't really matter who you are. There's different avenues you can take to make this work for you. But if you're someone that wants more adventure, more travel in your life, like this is the coolest way to do it, in my opinion. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. And I need to get to the Maldives before it sinks. But also the reality of this is that by traveling and by putting yourself out there, you gain so much perspective. You learn so much. I collect runs. So I've run in Buenos Aires, through a preserve, like a biosphere or biological preserve, or, I've run through a cemetery to go see Vita Perón's grave. I've run in Rio. It's fantastic just to get out there and see different perspectives and different, topographies and different people, etc. I wanted to just, I always try and find a quote for my guest, and this is the one I found for you, which is, flying may not be all plain sailing, but the fun of it is worth the price. And if I asked you who said that, and you said to me Amelia Earhart, I would have said you cheated. Can you believe this is Amelia Earhart? So
wow,
she might have been referring to a different kind of flying.
Yeah.
Like you and I do.
Right? Exactly. That's hilarious. Yeah, interesting. I would have never guessed that quote. That's awesome. But
I know.
Yeah, I think that's cool too, to have that, what you were saying, just sharing. Your if you have something that ties you in on your trips too, I think that's really cool. Whether you're a foodie, you like to run and see things. I think having different things to connect to the local community is really cool. I've gotten more into surfing, so for me, that's kind of becoming more of a thing. So I think that's always a fun way to give you some more, even further inspiration around what you're doing too.
Have you surfed in South Africa yet?
Not yet. That's going to be up there. I have plans to do a big South Africa trip. I'm saving it for about 2 years out. I've got like a 2 to 3 week trip that I'm planning to take down there, maybe even a month of combining some safari stuff with time in Cape Town. So I've been to Johannesburg just for one day to fly out, but yeah, going to have to go back and really enjoy it fully.
I will make a deal with you. If you help me hack my way to the Maldives, I will help you hack your way to South Africa. Eli, it's been wonderful getting to know you. I'm trying to institute a little new, just end of show question to ask all my guests, and
Mm-hmm.
then at some point, maybe I'll stitch them all together. And so the question that I ask everyone is, what is the length of blood vessels in the body if they were laid out in a line? I'm kidding. The number is 60,000. But the question that I really am starting to ask everyone is, what do you know now that you didn't know then? And you can keep it as open-ended as you want. I can inspire you as well with this.
Yeah, I really wanted to give that one some thought, because there's so much. I mean, traveling's taught me a lot. I've done a lot of kind of like personal development type things, but I think one of the things that stands out to me is just the true value and experiences to shift who you are from an identity level. I think that's one of the most powerful things that many people, particularly in the US, completely miss on. And I wish I'd taken that into heart a little more, because when I was first traveling quite a bit, I wasn't necessarily looking at it from that perspective of like, how does this get to change who I am, my beliefs, my values, that kind of thing. I was just like enjoying the city and drinking the finest beer or whatever it was, and that was great too. But I think there was a deeper level of potential in the experiences I was having that I didn't quite take away. So that would be the one that's one I'll leave you with and share.
It's actually the perfect answer, and I love the fact that you actually thoughtfully, you thought about it for a moment as well. Collect countries. Don't just experience the journey and even the destination, but make the most of it. If you're on a business trip, find half a day to go on a little tour. You may never ever return to that country, so make sure on that trip that you made the most of it, and you will make the most of it if you end up working with the travel guy himself. Please go out and check Eli's services for credit and points consulting at freedomtravelsystems.com. And if you want to follow him on his slammer time excursions to all these wonderful countries, you can do that on Instagram. Eli, I have a feeling that you're going to get a lot of business, in particular from Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
I've been waiting for that, man. I've been waiting for that, so I'm happy about it.
And he approves, and we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.